I've said this before, that if you want to run a great company, you have to have the 3 Ps. Great people, a great process, and you've got to have a great product. Here at Douglas Restoration, where I've had the opportunity to spend today, I've seen all 3. They go out there and they deliver that great product to the customer. They have great processes in place that we've seen, and the people here are amazing. But none of that means anything without leadership. So I'm finally going to be able to sit down here with Stephen Douglas, the leader of Douglas Restoration, one of the fastest growing companies in the state of Florida, and you're going to see all the reasons why. Stay tuned. All right, and we are back. Like I said, couldn't be more excited to be here with the leader himself of Douglas Restoration, Mr. Stephen Douglas. How are you doing, man?
Very good. Very good.
Good deal. So I've gotten a chance to spend some time with your people today. Mm-hmm. I've gotten a chance to meet your wife, the sales manager, some of the other people around the office. Mm-hmm. How'd you get it so right, man? I mean, you got such great people here.
Hey, I tell you, it didn't happen overnight. That's the biggest thing is it takes a lot of time. It really does. Yeah.
So you've really hit the nail on the head, though. You've got great people around you. We were able to go out to a job site, and we were out there with your father.
Yeah.
It's a family business through and through, because you've got your wife obviously working here. You have your father who's involved in the business. Let's bring it back, though, man, to kind of the beginning, because it wasn't always just you and your dad here doing your thing.
Right.
Tell me about a little bit about where you started, where you grew up, and help people get a chance to know you. Where's the start of Stephen Douglas?
Stephen Douglas is a Floridian.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I grew up in Florida. My dad and mom, they always had businesses growing up. My grandpa, he owned a big pants factory, and he employed hundreds and hundreds of people. He was a pants manufacturer. And so I grew up in that environment where I was always at the factory, and my grandpa was this huge leader in the town, you know. And then with my father, he worked in that business, but he also had a bunch of side businesses all the time. Yeah. There was one time where he had some business where he would go to NASCAR races, and he had like these headbands that he had this gel inside of that made people cool. And it didn't matter what it was, he was trying to sell something. Yeah. You know, he always had something up his sleeve.
Right.
You know.
So you grew up in that house where you got your grandfather, leader in the industry, you might say.
Yeah.
And your father's an entrepreneur doing different things throughout different side projects and stuff.
All the time.
Do you think it ran in your blood then? Because I know it's not just you who's an entrepreneur. I believe your brother is as well. Is that correct? Or
well, I have a sister. That's also she's in the industry as well, and she has her own business. And she's always been her and I have always been in competition with one with another. We said, hey, listen, when we turn 30, we're going to compare each other's lives, and whoever has the most money is going to win. Oh. You know, as a kid, that's all it is. That's what we talked about.
Scoreboard that you got, man.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that? I mean, I don't want to jump ahead or anything, but I guess I will. I mean, is that the scoreboard for you? Is money? I mean,
no.
Is not. You've got a beautiful family. You've got. Yeah. I mean, so what's the scoreboard for Stephen Douglas? Then, I mean, what is it for you? I mean, if we look at 50-year-old Stephen Douglas years down the road, what's it going to be as you look at this company and yourself? That's going to be the scoreboard for you.
I think for me, it's going to be about having a positive impact on other people. When I first started doing the roofing business, it was just to survive, right? Yeah. And now I had this guy once that told me that I have a big ministry, and I was like, what does he mean by that? And it's just, we employ a lot of people, we touch a lot of people. There's a lot of families that depend on me, and a lot of different, not even just employees, but suppliers and industry people, dumpster drivers. I mean, there's a lot of people that get affected by the company, and I just want people to look at it as that we were positive. We were a positive impact on them.
And I think you're doing that just by the people that we've seen today. But where it all started, though, we talked about your father being that, but you were a competitive son of a gun as a kid.
Yeah.
It wasn't just with roofing. I mean, that started well before we get into the roofing business. Where do you think that came from? Where's the first time you remember that Stephen Douglas had a fire to be the best?
Well, I remember that I used to be in baseball. I used to race motorcycles, and ever since that I was little, I always wanted to win. All right. You know, when I was playing in baseball, I was the catcher, and I had an uncle that ended up showing me how to throw it from my knees.
That's a big deal.
Yeah,
when you're a catcher,
right. So it was just
out second base.
Yeah, and he would teach me all the secrets, and then I loved to be able to throw people out. That was my thing. And my cousin, he was really fast, and he was also a catcher, and he would always say, "You're never going to steal a base on me." Right. So what did I want to do?
Steal a base.
Yeah, I want to steal a base on my cousin.
Yeah.
And so it's always been that competitive. And then when I was younger, my best friend got a motorcycle, and he was so good on it. He was doing all these wheelies, he was doing all these jumps, and I just wanted to get involved.
Yeah.
What
how old are we talking? Like 15, 16?
Yeah, 14, 15.
Okay, so you're in that teenage kind of area.
Yeah,
right
just
there.
in the teenager years, and just starting to, and so once I got into the motocross, I didn't want anything else to do with baseball. I was done.
Yeah.
I wanted to concentrate all of my energies on racing dirt bikes. And I hired a trainer. My mom would pick me up from school. We would go from school. She would pick me up in the circle with the dirt bike behind the truck. I would get it all set up for her in the morning. She would come pick me up, and we'd go straight to the track to train, in the Florida heat.
Yeah.
And so I had goals growing up, and we had races every weekend, and it was just all out every weekend.
I think that's something that's missing nowadays, because I've never got involved with dirt track racing, but I remember going to some races.
Yeah.
And what I always liked about them now looking back is there was a clear person who won that race.
Yeah.
There's a clear winner and there's a clear loser. There was somebody who came in last place when you went around there and somebody who came in first.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things from just knowing you care about that, man. You're competitive. You're not a person who was just looking for I guess you might say, what do you call it, participation trophy.
Right.
That's not how you started off.
Yeah, there was never that. I mean, I remember having all my first place trophies lined up, and I didn't care about the second place ones. It was only the first place that I wanted.
That's it.
And it was one of those things where I went from being in a team sport in baseball, and then you go into being in dirt bikes, and there's nobody else to blame. If you go out there and you don't win that race or you don't do good, it's on you.
Nope.
I mean, you can't say, "Oh, well, you know what? Nobody hit, and I couldn't steal the base," or whatever it was.
You were pitching, no one really got some runs for you.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by it. When you do an individual sport like that,
individual.
In baseball, it's different. In basketball, you can blame it on the other four guys.
Right.
When you're a kid, it's not that I sucked today, it's that everyone else did.
Yeah.
But when you go there, it's you.
Yeah, you're raw.
Right. You're out there. You're exposed.
Yeah.
And I think that, from when I look at that right now, I think that kind of transitions into the business world. But I think it's something that a lot of people are missing nowadays, is that you got a lot of young entrepreneurs coming into this game right now thinking that it's a team sport. They can just blame somebody else if things don't go right. But there ain't anybody else to blame. No one's going to pick up the slack for you.
Yeah, and it can also be a double-edged sword, though, because, I was used to being in dirt biking, and everything was on me, right? And so I didn't really, have a lot of skills to be able to involve other people to help me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And so whenever I first kind of got started in business, I was always trying to do everything myself, because that's how I did it in dirt biking. That's how I did all my goals, were all me. I'm the one that trained. I'm the one that fixed my dirt bike. I'm the one that drove to the track. It was like growing up, it was all about an individual.
Plus you had the trainer, so everything was focused on you as well, right?
Right.
Mom's picking you up from this time, you got the trainer.
Yeah.
Everything's focused on Steven and winning, right?
Right, yeah.
I get what you're saying there.
Yeah.
I can see the other double-edged sword on that.
Yeah, it is a little bit of because it's harder to really learn to work with others when you're just so focused on yourself. Does that make sense?
It does.
Kind of growing up, I was really, I kind of, looking back now, I kind of like, wow, I was really selfish. What about my sister? What about, my parents? They, spent every weekend taking me to a race. I'm sure my dad wanted to go fishing. I mean, I'm sure he wanted to, take his daughter to a cheer competition or something, but he didn't. He was with me every weekend at the race.
Do you find yourself thinking about that with your kids? You have 6 kids now. Do you think about that kind of stuff from both sides?
Well, yeah, I try to spread all my time evenly with all my kids.
Yeah.
My son, he has activities. All my daughters have activities, and I try to be at all of them. I try to be the family guy now.
Well, I know everyone can't see around your office right here, but there's pictures everywhere, so it's obvious it's important to you.
Yeah.
Let's take, we're talking about the teenage time, when you go from the dirt biking, you're doing well in that. Tell me your first memory, though, of a business. Like your first interaction in the business world. Were you working for somebody else? Was it in the family? Was it roofing? How'd you get introduced to your professional world?
Well, obviously we had talked about how my dad was an entrepreneur, right? And so growing up, anytime that he would be setting up a new business, or whether, it was that I had to go paint a new retail space that he was going to be selling something out of, and he would really put me to work and teach me how to do pressure washing or painting and any type of construction related things. And growing up, I was always in charge of mowing the grass at home. My dad said, the first thing you need to do is learn how to tie your shoes, and then I'll let you drive the mower. Right?
Mine was something you want to do first.
So the very first thing that I learned how to do was tie my shoes, and what did I do? I went right up to my dad. Dad, I know how to do it now. And he said, all right, well, get on that mower. And so I used to mow, and the pine cones would just shoot out, and I would just all day long just love to ride that. And they would come get me, and I'd run out of gas, and I'd be like, it's broke, Dad. He'd be like, no, we just got to put some gas in it.
That's a good feeling though when you're a kid, right? Like, so isn't that like something overlooked? Like, if you thought something was freaking broke, and then just put some gas in, and it's good as go like that again, man.
Yeah, I remember one time I blew up one of the lawnmowers because he had told me that I had to keep oil in it, right? But I would just drive it around all the time. It was like my dirt bike, it was my first thing I ever rode. So I would be riding that thing and going through the ditches and everything, getting it stuck, and somehow I ran it out of oil. But it's just one of those things that it was a great childhood, and just getting that work ethic of my dad giving me assignments and completing them. And but the first business that I ever owned was a pressure washing business. I had a pressure washing business when I was in high school, and I had worked for this guy in the landscaping business one summer, and he taught me how to, cut grass professionally, right? And he taught me how to weed eat and do all the things, and he taught me how to pressure wash, and he taught me a lot about, that type of business, a handyman business, basically. So after the first summer of doing that, I said, well, what do I need him for? I don't need him. I'm 16 years old. I got a truck. I don't need this guy driving me around, right? So I ended up, setting up a little LLC, and, got some insurance, and put an ad in a newspaper. Pressure washing, driveways, houses, whatever. Call me. And before you know it, my phone was ringing, and every day after school I was pressure washing somebody's house.
Damn.
All by myself,
So do you think that's where the attention to detail started for you? Because when I look around, Douglas Restoration right now, there's a real attention to detail in what everyone does. But you had it with, the pressure washing. Your father obviously had it with tying your shoes first, doing it right, step by step.
Right.
Is that where all the attention to detail you think comes from? Did it start there, or was there something that switched on for you? Because it seems like there's above and beyond here at Douglas. That seems to be something that's a focus.
See, the focus for me is not that. My biggest thing is getting it started, getting the sale, right? When I was starting this business, I would love meeting with the customers. That was my favorite thing to do, was to go out and be face to face with them, show them the products, show them what I can do for them, offer them a good bid, and make them all the promises that I was going to deliver. And then I didn't really enjoy all the details, after that. And so the attention to details in the company doesn't really have anything to do with me. That would be my team, my wife.
And we definitely talked to her, and she's got a great attention to detail. So but let's go back here to, because I want to get into the company and how you formulated such a successful thing here. But you go from pressure washing. How do you get involved from landscaping, pressure washing, into roofing? When does that switch happen? What do you remember that being?
Well, it's definitely a long story. My background was in growing up was a very religious background, and so my parents, especially my mom, she wanted me to. We grew up in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, right? So when you turn 19, you're supposed to go on a 2-year mission trip, and that missionary trip, you're not allowed to talk to your family when you go out. No, you can't. You go out there for 2 years. You only talk to your family twice a year, and you're focused on bringing new members in, right? And so for 2 years, all I did was knock on people's doors, trying to bring them into the church.
Is this happening in Florida? Where are you doing this at?
This was in Vegas.
Vegas, okay.
It was hot, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And so obviously there's a lot of people sinning in Vegas. There's a lot of people that are down on their luck. There's a lot of people that need to have a good message there. And so I spent 2 entire years there. And all I did was try to convert people and talk to people and listen to their problems and try and resolve problems that they were having. And so for me, I really gained a big understanding of helping people, you know, and I knew that whenever I got done with that mission, that I wanted to be involved in helping people, because that's what I had done for 2 years, is help people.
So when you're going through this process over 2 years, are you knocking the doors? What happens after? Are you actually talking to the people still? You walking through the process, or is it just kind of you knock on the door and you leave?
Well, every 6 weeks you're off to a new area.
Really?
So you go there 6 weeks to 12 weeks, and you're teaching those people, you're getting them into the church, you're bringing them, you're trying to get them baptized, and then you're off to a new area. And so you got a new companion, and it's all these new experiences, and you just meet people constantly. And so for 2 years, you just really grow, yeah. and you're really focused on your own development and helping other people, you know. And so that's really where I really learned, you know, to talk to people, to listen, to try and convince them of what I'm saying, you know. The church, is it still something that sticks with you and your family? Is it not as big a part of your life now? How has that progressed as you've gotten older in life? Definitely, it's a big part of our life. Yeah. You know, we try to live our lives in a way that God would be proud of us, you know. I think you guys are doing a good job of that. Yeah. But getting back to why I mentioned that is because when I got home from the mission, I had in my head that I was going to go be a real estate guy. Okay. Right? And so what happened is that I had got home and my dad had this roofing business. And I'm like, what? He's always doing something new. Mm-hmm. Right? And I'm like, what is this? This is a roofing? What? I don't understand. Where did you get this from? Right? So he had gone, and there was a hurricane that had hit Florida, and he had gone and he had sold like a whole bunch of roofs for this guy. All right. And in his mind, he said, what do I need him for? Just like you did originally when you had pressure washing. Yeah. So my dad's like, well, I don't need him. I'll just go get my own license. So my dad, while I'm on my mission, goes out and gets his roofing license for Florida. Okay. And so I come home, and he's in the full-fledged roofing business. And he's like, come to work for me. He's like, I'll show you how to do it. I'll show you everything. And I was like, you know, I got other plans. I've done that. I've been there. I've worked for you before. Plus, it's hot in Florida. You know, I've worked for you before. I know what it's like. I just want to go out to Utah, you know, and find a wife, you know. Okay. And so I did. I went out there, and I was miserable. I didn't like being out there. It was cold, and the people were a lot different than Florida. Mm-hmm. And so my dad calls me and he says, listen. He says, we just had a big hurricane come through Florida and through Mississippi. And this was the first hurricane that I ever worked was Hurricane Katrina. This is 2005 then? Yeah, this is in 2005. Okay. So I'm home from my mission. I'm searching for meaning in life. My dad comes to me and says, let's go chase this hurricane. And I don't know anything about roofing, nothing. And he's been in it for about a year now. And so he wants to go chase this hurricane because he had some connections up in Mississippi, and he wanted to, start roofing into the big time. Okay. Not just a roof or two a week. You know, he wanted to hit it big. He wanted to do 20, 30 roofs a week. Storm chase this thing. Yeah, that's what he wanted. He had the vision of that. Okay. And so, I didn't know anything about hurricanes. I had never, as a kid, I remember people talking about Hurricane Andrew that hit in Homestead. Yeah. But I was too little for that. I didn't know anything about it. I mean, I even growing up in Florida, it wasn't a big thing for me to see a bunch of devastation. But my dad brung me out there to Mississippi, and it was something I've never even witnessed.